So today we're out in Holdridge, Nebraska, and we just finished up an install on a Case IH 1255 24-row planter. And so what we had installed here is the GX5 LFP 120 hydraulic diaphragm pump. With this pump, we can get down to 1 gallon per minute for our low rate and up to 28 gallons per minute for our high rate. So with this pump, you're still able to handle a lot of the in-furrow rates that a guy might run into, but you can also handle nitrogen rates and a little bit some higher nitrogen rates as well with this pump. So this guy's only using this for about 20 gallons per minute of nitrogen, but he wanted to get a pump that was a little bit larger, so if in the future, if he decides to speed up or if he decides to put out more gallons, then he's able to have a pump that can do that. Also, the benefit of running a pump that's a little bit larger is that it uses less hydraulic flow to move that pump versus a smaller pump. Since the pump has a larger range to it, you don't need as much hydraulic fluid to move that pump. So if you were taxing your hydraulic fluid, well, that's one thing you could do. Size the pump a little bit larger, use less fluid to move that pump. Looking at the liquid controller here, we have the Raven RCM liquid controller. With this liquid controller, it's the level 0, so we can only do a single product with it, but if in the future he wanted to do a dual product, we can just put a level 2 on it, and then he's able to do that. Here we have the harnessing going underneath the pump. And so we're plugged into a single product there, and then with our harnessing, we have a second product lead on here as well. So it's really easy to put on a second product. You don't need to buy a whole new branch harness. You can just add on to the existing harnessing that you would already have. Looking at the tank that we have here, we have a 500-gallon tank on this. We put a clear hose on the front of it just so it's even easier to see the fill level. And then we always like to try to mount these as close to that bulk fill as much as possible so we can get as much room out of this. Now, what we had to do when the planter folds in, the vac, when it folds in, we need to have the space in between the pump and the tank. So we tried folding it a couple times, and we found out we needed to do that. So we just leave the pump closer to the front, have the tank further back, and we have enough room when the planter folds. And then underneath the tank here, we wanted to plumb this per the customer request. So what he wanted to do, we have a 2-inch bunk coming out of here, and then we also had a 3/4-inch bunk coming out of here. For the 3/4, we just wanted to use it as a drain for the pump. And then this 2-inch we can use as the feed going into the tank, and then we can also use it as the feed going to the pump. We have a ball valve on both sides, so you can control exactly what you need. Looking at the manifold, for this guy, he didn't want a visual sight glass manifold. With his nitrogen, he's mixing some bios with it, and so with that, you can't see the sight glasses, so why have them? He didn't want to make the step to an electric row monitor just yet, so what we did is we just used this non-visual sight glass manifold, save a little bit of money with that. We've come out with our 3/4-inch hose, and that's coming from the section valves mounted on the pump. And then we're coming out with a 3/8 push lock tubing. We always like to use a 3/8 push lock tubing, because when you're on a bigger bar like this, over these longer distances, you don't necessarily have to keep the tubing the same length. In a perfect world, you would, but unless if you want a lot of spirals everywhere, which you can argue causes more restriction when you do that as well, we like to try to run the tubing to length. It looks cleaner, and with that larger tubing, you can run it longer distances and not have nearly as large of a flow difference per row. So looking at the row unit, here we have our dual check valve set up. So with this, we can come out with our large size, which is our black microtube, and then our small size, which is our red microtube. And so what this gives us the ability to do is, say if I wanted to only have my large tube open and I didn't want to use my small one, now flow's only coming out of my large microtube. Maybe I want to flip that around though. I want to use my smaller one, close my larger one. Now I'm just using my small microtube. But now maybe if I'm really driving fast or I'm putting out a lot of rate, I can open both of these and now I can get even more flow out. Coming down to the row unit, we have a Y that's hidden up here that splices the microtubes together. And then we come out with this 3/8 push lock tubing. And then we're just applying on one side of the row with a stainless steel tube. And so as we come down the planter, we wanted to make everything equal and look good. With all the tubing that's coming into the check valves here, there's enough room to where we're able to leave play in that tubing. So since we have the room to do it, since we have the availability to do that, we might as well do that. Over here, for the fill of the tank, we just have a 2-inch fill right back here. We zip tied the cap on here so you don't drop it and lose it and get a bunch of dirt in there. And then on this side of the pump, we have our 3 section valves that are here. We have a filter that's going into the pump. The good thing with the microtubes that we're using and also the diaphragm pump, you can use a larger mesh filter in here, like a 30 mesh filter, and then all those micronutrients or whatever good stuff in your chemical there you want to get out to the row unit. Now it doesn't have to plug up the filter. Let it pass through the filter. It'll go through the pump just fine. And since you're using that microtubing where that inside diameter is about 2 to 3 times larger to its comparable disc orifice, you're able to get a lot more of that good stuff down to the row unit there. So very clean setup. Digital pressure sensor on here as well. So on the display, he's using a Pro 700 Plus display. He's able to see with the Raven RCM what the pressure of the system is. He can see what the rate is. He can see which section valves are opening. He can really precisely manage his liquid application with the system.